We are Dana and Colleen. Well, he is Dana. I am Colleen. And we are here to get you unstuck, no matter where you are in your life and what it is that is feeling stuck, mental, emotional, spiritual, energetic, or other. That is the place where we are really happy. So today we are actually building off of last week. So today's topic is the voice in your head isn't yours, where the inner critic comes from and whether or not you actually have to keep listening to it. So last time we were on here, we got into the question of how you tell the difference between intuition and anxiety, between your gut and your fear. And we actually had some really cool questions and we had some excellent follow-up from people afterwards.
Hmm.
But the question underneath that one is, when you go quiet enough to listen inward, whose voice are you hearing? Because for a lot of people, the loudest voice in your head is not necessarily a cheerleader. It is critical. It is absolutely certain. It tells you exactly what you did wrong, and it has opinions about what you're about to do wrong next. And we often assume that that is ours, and we often assume that it's true, but probably not. It probably just settled in, and it was there so consistently you assumed it was a part of you, so it was you. So today on the Digital Dojo, we are getting into the inner critic, where it actually comes from, why it sounds so convincing, and what it means that you might have been taking directions from somebody else for most of your adult life. We're also going to talk about what changes when you start to figure that out, because you don't actually have to get rid of the voice, but you do get to stop letting it drive. So we've got a stack of listener questions, and unless you have anything to say,
Jazz hands. Getting them ready.
do you have anything to say, or shall I go with questions?
Uh, Really, from my perspective, and in the way that I use the black belt mind concepts to talk about this topic, this is all about discernment, discerning what voice is saying what and whose voice it is and where it's coming from and why it's there.
Discernment is one of Dana's favorite words, by the way.
It is one of my favorite words. It's a fabulous word. It encompasses so much breadth and potential in it that I use it all the time. Right? Discernment is the ability to tell the difference between things. Okay, and I think it feels like a very profound and useful idea for this kind of discussion. Discernment.
Discernment. Good thing that was not a charades question because nobody would get it. You would. You would. We could probably charades that. Okay.
I want to try now.
Um, shall I just leave to the question?
Sure.
Okay. This one.
Hmm.
My inner critic sounds exactly like my dad.
Mm.
He's been gone for 12 years. Why is he still so loud? That was a lot of
Hmm.
single syllable, multi-layered
Yeah.
meaning sounds that you were making.
Yeah. Well, just because that's such a great question, and as a perfect example of like where this discernment um, is so useful, right? This concept of being able to tell the difference between things. So, to the asker of this question, I first off want to applaud you for being able to open up the possibility that the voice that you're hearing in your head that is sounding so much like your dad is something that you're aware of, right? Because
Mm.
that's awareness is the product of discernment. And if we can tell the difference between things, we've discerned them well. We can say, well, this is this and this is this, or this is this and this isn't this. Right? And that gives us a leg up in starting to be able to understand the potential reasons why that voice is there and open up the possibility of understanding how it got there in the first place. And that's really crucial in learning how to fundamentally and ultimately trust yourself, right? If you've got different voices that are saying different things, and particularly if they're critical or harsh or judgmental, um, those voices sow the seeds of a lot of doubt, right? And doubt is the antithesis of trust. It's the thing that you feel the accumulation of that makes you feel like you can't trust yourself. And that's an important, I think, way to say it is we're talking about how we feel about what that voice is saying and where that voice is coming from and what it sounds like.
I would add to that by saying there's a lot of trauma in that because we don't talk a lot on here, or we haven't talked a lot on here about NAP, which is one of the techniques that we use. And NAP, the new agreement process, gives you, it's a really simple thing that a technique that you can use. People can use other techniques. You can use hypnosis, you can use tapping, you can use journaling, whatever it is. We like NAP because it gives you a way through trauma. And the reason I'm saying trauma is because we think of trauma, most of us are trained to think of trauma as some big, horrible, horrific thing. Oh, that was a really traumatic, whatever, fill in the blank. I don't, yeah. Kidnapped by pirates, something like that. Trauma in the world that we work in is anything that you are not well resourced enough to process entirely in the moment. So if you are too tired, if you don't have time, if you're hungry, if you've had a fight with your partner, your dad yells at you, and you've got to go to school as a kid and you don't have time to process it because you're upset, and then you get to school and you have to start right in behaving, or you have a fight with your partner and you've got a meeting to go to, or there's people coming over, so you have to pretend that everything's awesome. Thank you very much. You don't have time to process it. It lodges in there as trauma because your system says, I know that was dangerous. The nervous system, and especially the amygdala, which is the strongest part of your brain, it's not the smartest part of your brain, the fight or flight part of your brain, says that was a terrible thing. And terrible things, from your dad yelling at you to somebody swerving into your lane and you narrowly avoid them, to getting kidnapped by pirates, it all lodges kind of as the same thing in your brain. It all lodges as fight or flight. So when something like that happens as a kid, if you do not have parents who sat down with you and helped you work through whatever was going on, and your dad just snapped at you and said, "Oh my God, I can't believe you did that wrong again. Why are you never good enough at this?" Now you have a trauma saying you are never good enough, and then you carry that forward. So I would say, why is he still so loud? Because you haven't had a chance to finish working through the trauma of being not good enough.
Mhm. Should we talk about potentially why that under-resourced state, when you're tired, hungry, unrested, anxious, is traumatic?
Yes.
Because the other way that we describe trauma in this little t sense, right? Big T trauma is, a catastrophic event, a plane crash, a car accident, a fire, something that's, where you've been injured, and it's
Pirates.
Pirates, one of the scariest ones. But little t trauma is uh, classified in the way that we classify it and work with it, because its result is it disconnects you from your self-worth. Right? So in the moment, it disconnects you from your self-worth. Okay, anytime that we are disconnected from our self-worth, whether we are entirely aware of it or unaware of it, it registers in the way that we work with it as being traumatic. Why? Because when your self-worth is connected, when you actually feel your own value and you feel your self-worth, you're in a position where you feel like you deserve good things to happen to you. You feel like you can make good choices. You can trust yourself. When you're disconnected from that, okay, especially when something random or surprising, chaotic, or difficult happens, even if it's small, if it startles your nervous system and puts you into fight or flight, when you feel disconnected from your self-worth, it will translate to your nervous system like you caused that random, chaotic, or unpleasant thing to happen to you. In other words, it will make you feel like you deserved it. And that further compounds the disconnection from self-worth and leaves us more open to self-blame and shame. We start feeling like, hey, that thing happened. That was bad. I must have done something to cause it. Therefore, I must deserve it because I'm responsible for it. Okay? When we're in a high worth connected state and we're feeling the value of our own self-worth, we're much more resilient to that false set of beliefs gaining momentum and taking over. In other words, when we're connected to our self-worth, we are much, much, much more resilient and almost impervious to shame, okay? Which is the thing that tells you not only that, if we compare it to, like, say, blame, Blame is the feeling of, oh, I did something wrong. Shame
No,
is the feeling of,
no. Blame isn't I did something wrong. Sorry, we're we're just gonna squabble for a second.
uh,
Isn't blame you did something wrong?
well, I'm talking about it from the disconnected self-worth
Oh,
piece,
proceed.
our own awareness, right?
Proceed.
So we're feeling like we're to blame is maybe the better way to say it.
I'm with you.
Okay, just to make sure that it's not confusing, right? So when we're feeling blame or blamed, someone's blaming us, we're internalizing, we're taking it and going, yeah, I did something wrong. I must have done something wrong. Okay. Shame is, and there's a reason why they rhyme and they sound like similar words, but shame is not that I did something wrong, that I am just wrong inherently. Something is wrong with me. Something is broken. Something is damaged. Something is deficient. There's a fault. Okay? And that's why when we are disconnected from our self-worth, we're much more susceptible to feeling the weight of blame and particularly feeling the sting of shame. But the reverse is true as well. When we're in a high self-worth connected state, we don't internalize those energies as quickly or as easily. When something random, chaotic, or surprising happens, that's potentially painful.
Okay, this is where the next question that leads right into the next question. It's like we planned this. Um, we didn't actually, but it leads in beautifully to
I
this.
can plan that well.
So the next question is, I'm a pretty spiritual person and I've done a lot of inner work, but I noticed that my inner critic has gotten clever. It doesn't say you're worthless anymore. Now it says things like you're not evolving fast enough or your vibration is off. It's wearing a wellness costume. What do I do about that? Which I think is a lovely segue from that because these are, I mean, she's talking about, hey, I'm a high vibrating person for the most part. So shouldn't I just want to vibrate higher?
Yes.
There you go, folks. That's the answer.
It depends on the reason why, though. Right?
Hmm.
We can be authentic, self-driven to evolve and keep rising to more and more of our potential and capacity, or we can be ego-driven and want to have that kind of appearance of ascension and evolution because we want other people to think that about us more than we think it about ourselves. And we're looking for external sources to validate that in us. So we kind of have to show it off, right? Um, the human ego is a very fascinating and super powerful thing that I think in many, many ways is tremendously misunderstood. And I get why, if I'm even remotely correct about why I'm thinking that it's been understood. Like, I understand why it's such a hard thing, or sorry, such an easy thing to misunderstand. Okay. And fundamentally, the problem lies in that area of discernment again, right? Our egos operate in a very binary black and white way, in a very win or lose way. Okay? And the ego's primary function is to help us survive. And its modality of survival is grounded in an insatiable desire to prove itself right all the time. And it's so committed to that as a function of our nervous system and our psychology that it will go to the greatest lengths to prove that it's right. It will actually do self-destructive things and almost wreck itself just to be right. And it speaks in a particularly either overtly aggressive way or an overtly slick way. And being able to discern how our ego is speaking to us in the moment that it's speaking is another really important factor in being able to tell what our real why for something is.
Hmm.
Tendency tends to be that our authentic self, our truest self, our highest self is only seeking to find things that feel more and more truthful. It's not looking to put blinders on and exclude any experience or information because it's afraid it's going to be wrong. Right? Our authentic self just wants to be more and more in alignment with things that feel more and more true. Our ego wants to battle. Our ego wants to reject. Our ego wants to categorize, prioritize, classify in the direction of anything that will make it feel like it's right. So if that inner voice is yelling at you and shaming you and putting you down, pretty good chance that it's coming from the base of your ego. If it's also being kind of smooth and slick and trying to covertly do any of those things like criticize or shame you, that's a sign that it's also coming from your ego. Generally speaking, our authentic self speaks to us in a steady, consistent tone that's always trying to point us towards the better in us. It doesn't yell, it doesn't scream, it doesn't bully. It's steady, it's strong, it's consistent, and doesn't have to do any of those things to get our attention because we're naturally designed to resonate with things that are truthful.
Yeah, I'd almost say shorthand that it's criticism versus inspiration.
That's great way to classify it.
Because usually Dana's the one who finds the pithy little sayings so people can remember things, and I tell a 20-minute story. So this one, but it should have been an I and an I, like insult versus inspiration.
Mm,
I'll work on it. I'll come back.
that's pretty good though.
Well,
You might have just landed on it right there.
I'll workshop it because the idea of you're not evolving fast enough, insult. Your vibration is off, insult. You wouldn't say that to somebody else, as opposed to, oh, that doesn't feel like me. I wonder what's going on. Or, oh, I've done this and that feels really cool. Geez, I feel like I can do that faster. That makes me feel quite inspired to do more of that. So I think that's a very quick shorthand for discernment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I agree. I think that's really good.
We
Well
are
done.
20 minutes in and we are 2 questions down. This is a new record, folks.
Big topic. Important topic.
Shall we move along to the next question?
Sure.
Okay. This one, my short answer is going to be yes. And there's a longer answer. So I've started to wonder if my inner critic developed to keep me safe in a household that wasn't safe. Like if I criticized myself first, I was ahead of the criticism coming from outside. That kind of makes sense to me. But if that's true, how do you thank it for what it did and then retire it? Because just telling it to shut up doesn't work. I've tried.
Yeah, I would say that you're absolutely right about that thought. That inner critic that we're positing comes from our ego was definitely geared towards your survival and your ability to feel like you had some sense of agency, power, and control. So the ego will function in a manner that kind of settles for less. That language makes sense because it's better to have even a little bit of power in a terrible, threatening, uncomfortable, painful situation than to have none at all. So our egos will develop along the lines of assimilating information very quickly and taking in raw data very deeply, and then making absolute value judgments on that information and that raw data in order to minimize risk. Minimizing risk is much, much different than reaching for excellence or expanding one's limits and trying to really become the best a person can be. And that discernment is really important too, because if we can tell that we talked about this idea before, the idea like what are thoughts, what are beliefs, and what sort of the truth or what are facts? Well, a belief is just a thought that you have consistently. A belief is a thought that occurs in the
See?
moment.
Pithy.
I know. That's me. That's why my last name starts with a P.
But I'm bummed.
Uh, we have a thought, and a thought, particularly when we're startled or under-resourced or surprised or shocked by something that we couldn't predict, okay, can have a negative feel to it, right? We can get very keenly aware of in that moment how something chaotic happens and we are surprised by it and we feel its threat and challenge that we will think negatively about ourselves in that moment. Do that a couple, 3 times, then that thought starts to actually gain momentum. In other words, that thought is a thought that we start thinking in a way that feels like we can't control it, right? And that's a natural human mechanism because in real life, when we stub our toe on the coffee table the first time, right? Ah, it's painful, it hurts, it's kind of dumb. We get on with the rest of our day. We do it again a second time in the day, and then we're getting a little more irritated, and it's even more painful because our toe was already sore. We do it a third time, and when we start literally landing in the space of like, okay, this coffee table thinks I deserve this, or it's out to get me, or what am I doing wrong that I keep pulling this physical object called the coffee table towards this other physical object called my toe? The idea of momentum is really important in that aspect, because if we start letting a thought gain momentum, in other words, if we start feeling like that thought is occurring in a way that we can't control, and it starts to feel like it's occurring faster and faster and more and more and more, that thought starts to become a belief. If we then have confirmation from the external world that that belief is true, i.e., my toe is magnetically attracted to coffee table legs, right? Then we will start to operate that. If we don't check the momentum, if we aren't aware of the momentum that's building, we'll start to operate on that belief like it's a fact, like it's a true fact. Okay? And that's kind of the opposite end of that shows up when we don't understand the value of discernment. Because if we can stop that momentum at some point and say, hey, this is kind of like using doubt for what it's meant for. I talk to people all the time and teach them a little saying, because I like simple sayings that are pithy, because I can remember them under pressure. When you're doubting yourself, doubt it. In other words, doubt your doubt. Question it for a sec, because that action alone will allow you to stop the momentum of any thought that occurred in a traumatic and startling moment from building momentum into becoming a belief, which then starts to, you know, that something's shifted from a thought to a belief when your behavior around that thought changes. When you start acting like, okay, well, I thought this, now I believe it. You're saying to your nervous system, well, I've got more real world evidence that that thing is something I got to really start operating around like it's real. And ultimately, then that's a behavioral change. And when your belief gains enough momentum that you start to treat it like a fact, then the behavioral change starts to show up in like avoidance. You'll just stay away from things, right? Instead of being mindful of all the coffee tables and all the rooms you walk into, you'll just stay out of rooms that have coffee tables, right? And that's where you know that, okay, maybe my ego is protecting me in ways that are actually now starting to hurt me because they're limiting my ability to reach out and to participate in the world. If you recognize that your ego is actually something that's there to help you and to serve a purpose by giving you information that's moment to moment accurate about how you might be feeling about something, you're going to be much more aware of the momentum of that feeling and whether it's starting to gain momentum as a thought, whether it's really running away with that momentum as a belief, or it's completely solidified itself because it has so much momentum that you now treat it like a fact. Okay? That awareness is the very key to being able to recognize and discern whether you're just talking about you're being driven by your ego, right, which is driven by the energy of fear, right, or you're being driven by something deeper, something more subtle, something more truthful, something more authentic, your true self, which is an energy that's driven by love. So that was my long way of saying that in order to settle that dynamic that was raised in the question is that you've got to learn to love your ego. And that in itself opens up a whole new world of information, command of focus, and self-control that will allow you to make decisions and choose behaviors that feel more and more aligned with who you truthfully are and less aligned with who you were programmed to be.
I have nothing to add. No notes.
Jazz hands.
Jazz hands. I do have something to add for the next one, though, because I'm actually quite excited about it, because this is my bailiwick for the next one. We're using all of $15 words today. So the next one, my grandmother was a very hard woman, hard on herself, hard on my mother, hard on everyone. My mother softened a little, but not much. I've softened more. But if you can still feel it in there, but I can still feel it in there, that inherited harshness, that voice that says, you haven't earned rest yet. I'm curious how far back that kind of thing goes and whether you can actually change it or just manage it. I have an answer.
Over to you.
Thank you. Don't you have to say with sports?
With weather.
With yeah, I shouldn't do sports, trust me.
Because it's getting hotter now and you're more conscious of the heat.
That's true. I'll do weather. Yeah, that works for me. Okay. So my answer is intergenerational trauma because I was just speaking with somebody about this today, and there's such cool information out there, and it doesn't sound cool to say trauma's cool. Trauma itself is not fun.
Healing trauma is cool.
Yeah, healing trauma is cool. And the studies that are going on now that are saying, hey, this stuff that you think is yours isn't yours. Because part of the challenge when we inherit trauma is that we end up managing it because we don't know where it comes from. So when we try to track it back to the source, we don't know what to do about it. There's a woman named Dr. Rachel Yehuda, and she's done some amazing work on inherited trauma with people, children of Holocaust survivors. And this part is anecdotal, but I think it's quite telling. She was talking to some adults whose parents were in the Holocaust, and they didn't have any information. So they didn't have any firsthand stories because their parents just refused to talk about it. And they described certain things. Like one gentleman said that he had money and jewelry stashed around the city. So no matter where he was, if he had to leave in a hurry, he could go and get the stash on his way out of town. And during the study, when they spoke to the parents, that was actually one of the things that allowed the parents to survive, is that they knew something was coming, so they had money and jewelry stashed around the city. So not only can we inherit trauma and how it translates to the inner critic, but when we know that there is at least a possibility, and in this case, this woman knows what's going on, that it's not ours, it gives you a lot more space to not manage it, but actually correct it. So just adding in that piece of this is not mine, therefore I don't have to understand it the same way. Again, not to be talking about NAP all the time, but part of what we talk about with NAP, part of what the wording is saying, this thing that I did to survive, that I learned that I had to do to survive, this belief that I have in order to stay safe, we add in the line that I or someone in my lineage did to learn how to stay safe. And when you do that, there's so much freedom that comes from, oh, I don't have to know the whole story. I don't have to make sense of the whole thing. I don't have to justify anything. If it's not mine, I am allowed to change it. Because even the grandmother being a very hard woman, she wasn't doing that for fun. She was doing that because that was her trauma response. And the wording we use in NAP is to survive, stay safe, stay sane. So we tend to think, oh, staying safe isn't as important as surviving. But in that moment, when your amygdala triggers, it feels like it. So later on, we say, no, I was just trying to stay safe. But in the moment, your system went danger, 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 being attacked by a tiger. We didn't question. Dana has dreadlocks, and every once in a while, little tiny pieces of them will fall off. And now it's fine because I've worked on my spider phobia. Before I had worked on it, yeah.
I see where you're going already.
Thank you. And so I'd take 2 steps into the kitchen, and the breeze from me walking would send things scuttling across the floor in front of me, and I would just full on jump scare.
Oh God, that's funny.
Now, this might be my own trauma, but part of how I worked on it was I probably had an ancestor somewhere where something bad had happened and a spider bit them and it wasn't good times.
Right? Yeah, I agree. Funny as hell, though.
The best trauma ends up being funny after the fact. I concur.
That's how you know you healed it.
We can laugh now.
That's right.
Yeah.
Not too soon.
Do you have any thoughts before I proceed to one on meditation?
I thought that answer was really awesome, actually. It
Thank you.
got me thinking about a whole bunch of different ways to help people practically engage the dynamics that you just described, right? And it kind of returns back to that taking a pause, right? And that's where that doubt your doubt phrasing that I use with people is effective. But there's other ways to sort of access that because it's really all aiming at the same thing. It's like, hey, wait a second, before I decide to react to something, and oftentimes we're super concerned about controlling our reactions because we don't want to act out on anyone in any untoward way. We don't want to say be snappy or be mean or be negative or anything aggressive that's going to be hurtful and misconstrued. Okay. But I also really try, and I'm trying more than I ever have in my whole life because I'm realizing the importance of this. What we're taught to do most of the time is internalize our reactions. So instead of acting out on other people, we act out on ourselves in ways that are insulting and injurious and inhibiting. And if you can pause that for a second, or you have that reaction and you internalize it, then you can give yourself a split second. Right? That's why I say doubt your doubt. Say, oh, I'm a stupid jerk. I shouldn't have done that. That was terrible. I deserve that horrible thing that happened to me, and it's all my fault. Or maybe it isn't. Maybe it was just an accident. Maybe I was innocently tired and made a mistake. Okay. If you can do anything that helps you to pause there for a second, right, you've already taken a step in controlling the ego's momentum. Right? And sort of
I would listen to that band.
oh yeah, it's a cool name.
Yeah.
Put that on the list too.
Yeah.
Ego's momentum. And because it's pretty interesting to realize how much momentum can build as quickly as it can. And the best way to realize that is when you catch it as it's building. If you can stop that momentum for a second, go, wait a second, hold on. Maybe there's another possibility here that doesn't involve me shaming myself. I don't want to do that to somebody else, but I also really don't want to do it to myself because the less I do that to myself, the less likely I am to do it to anybody else.
Well, and that inner critic voice too, when we realize it's linked to trauma, it does give us that space that even if all you can do is say, this might not be my real reaction, then, well, so Dana and I had a disagreement last week, which never happens. Ha ha ha. And I don't remember what it was about in this moment. It was going really well. We were discussing something, and he said something, and the inner critic voice jumped up, and what it said quite clearly and quite insistently was, you have made a mistake. He now hates you. Been a good 20 some years, and guess that's done now. So and I just sat there, and Dana sort of talked through this whole thing and did very well, and then got to the end and said, so actually I think this is really good and we could approach this way. What do you think? And because I had enough space, I still had the inner critic voice going, this is all your fault. You're a terrible person. You have messed this up. You have messed up, 2.5 decades of a relationship, and it's because you're just not good enough in all these ways. And I was watching it, and then I was able to very calmly say, I have no idea what we were talking about. I have no idea what you said. I didn't track any of this. We're going to have this conversation again later. Because in that moment,
which actually helped a lot. It really did.
Because the inner critic voice, it was still going in that moment. I hadn't had time to correct it yet. But I did have enough space to say, I don't think I need, I can't stop listening to you in this moment, but I don't have to believe you in this moment. I don't have to think that you are, gospel truth, as they say.
Your inner voice.
Yes.
The critic of your inner voice.
The critic of the inner voice. Yes.
Just making sure people weren't confused that you were saying that to me. Because you weren't, and you did a great job of it. And it actually was.
Technically, I wasn't listening to you.
Very, very helpful. Yeah, but it gave me more insight as to how scared you were feeling at the time. And if we can identify that and recognize that actually, our fears are not as dissimilar as our foundational fears aren't as dissimilar as we're taught to believe that they are, which keeps us divided, right? We're all kind of afraid of the same things, really, in some qualitatively similar form or another.
Yeah.
We share much more than we don't share as human beings.
Yeah. Well, that idea, surviving, staying safe, staying sane, saying stay, blah, 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 staying.
Digitaldojo.net, digitaldojo.net.
That's nice.
Say it as fast as you can. Surviving, stay safe, stay sane.
We think of stay safe quite often as a physical thing, but emotionally staying safe, oh, that's a huge thing, right? If we think somebody is calling us out and saying we are not a good person or we are not good enough or we are fill in the blank, that's devastating to us as humans.
Well, because it severs connection, right?
Yeah.
And then it isolates us from community.
Yeah.
And we don't feel too confident when we're isolated from ourselves and from others.
No, and that's why having News for the Soul as a radio
Mm-hmm.
like station is awesome because it's a sense of community for people because a lot of times the shows that are on here, and I say this about our show too, so this is not an insult, there's some quirky little shows out there.
In the best of possible ways.
Definitely in the
Yes.
best of and
Well, because we're questioning things, right? And
yeah.
we're talking about things that there aren't a lot of forums to actually have fulsome discussions about. Sorry to interrupt you, but
Well, yeah, so for the
so if
people,
that's quirky, I'm quirky all day long, and I want to be because that's better
oh yeah, I
for
mean, I
us.
still have moments when we're doing what we're doing, and I know, like, I've seen what we do work again and again, and I still have moments where I go, this is weird.
Mhm. Yeah. That was my experience all day with all my sessions. I was just like blowing my own mind here. Holy crap! In the best of possible ways.
So to have community, to have a place to go and go, holy crap, there's a whole station for people who think like me. I am not alone. And that's what that does to your nervous system, what that does to your mind is immeasurable.
Well, it soothes the inner critic, is what it does, in a very
Mm,
active and practically functional way. Because you're like, funny, it's a concept that we've talked about before that I certainly use a lot in my individual work is the idea of um, I call it the only one syndrome, where
mm,
people are feeling like, oh man, I'm thinking this or I'm having this problem, and I have to be the only one
Yep.
because I'm so this or I'm so that, or
yeah.
somehow we're self-deprecating and shaming ourselves, thinking that this thing that we're facing is the most unique and singular case of this thing, whatever it is that's ever existed in humanity. And then if you can cross that threshold and open up about it with vulnerability, I'm routinely amazed by how many people are like, oh my God, I'm so glad you said that. I feel exactly the same way. Or here's how I feel like that in the situations that cause that for me. Is that the same for you? No, no, for me, I get the feeling from this kind of situation. Oh my God, it's the same feeling, right? It's amazing. And it's like an instant shame eradicator. The idea of challenging this feeling of, oh, I'm the only one.
Mm, I like that. Shall we talk about
As do
meditation?
I. Yes, if that's the next on the question list, or
That is
is the
next
next
on the
in the
question list.
question?
We're just getting through so many questions today. I'm quite pleased with us. It is amazing. I've been meditating for 15 years. Kudos to you, by the way. And what I've found is that when I get very quiet, the critic gets louder, not quieter.
Mm.
It's like it's been waiting. My teacher says to just observe it, but observing it and being flattened by it feel pretty similar from the inside. Is there
Sure.
another approach?
So many answers to this.
I
Do you have one that's
have an easy
succinct?
answer.
I thought
Yeah.
you might.
My easy answer is do something different
Nice.
because
Practical, boots on the ground. I like it.
you know me, I'm so practical. Pause for laughter. So when the saying, to the person who only has a hammer, everything begins to look like a nail.
Mm-hmm.
So people who discover something that works have a tendency to think that it applies everywhere. And quite honestly, meditating, I mean, if this person keeps meditating, they're gonna get there. Like he's gonna manage to get this sorted. But if it's feeling like you're being flattened in the course of doing it, try a different approach because there are so many tools out there. And one that directly addresses the inner critic is going to make it gentler and easier to go back into meditation space and shift some of the underlying things. So meditation's a wonderful tool, but you deserve to have many, many tools.
Mm.
So I would say grab another tool from the tool belt.
Awesome. Any suggestions as to what those tools might be?
I tend to come back to the same ones. Obviously, I default to nap because it's I just like it. Um, that's why we use it. Um, visualizations can be really great if you are a visual person, because there's a room visualization that I do with people all the time, where you go into a room in your mind where it's safe, and the rules are you are 100% safe, you are comfortable, you are in charge, you are going to walk out accomplishing whatever you came in to do. And then you just talk to that voice, or you talk to whoever's behind it, or you talk to whatever's behind it. And there are different ways of doing that, but for visual people, our brain doesn't care if it sees something inside our head or outside our head. So when you have actually had that happen, when you have actually had a conversation with the grandmother who was saying, you don't deserve to rest, and she apologizes in front of you in that room in your mind's eye, it's like it's really happened, which is beautiful. That's why I come back to tapping all the time. That's why we come back to hypnosis all the time. That's why we use hypnosis, just a tiny bit of hypnosis in the nap audios. That's why somatic work is so great, because something that feels sticky one way might not feel sticky from another direction. And people will know in those moments, like people know truth when they hear it. So, when I'm going through that list, somebody might go visualizations. Oh yeah, I would love to see. Oh, and you'll feel yourself just relax a little bit into that. Or somatic work, I don't have to talk about anything. I can just feel it. Dun, da, da, da. Right? You'll know when it. Any
Very cool.
contributions before I go to the next question?
Depends on what the next question is, because I have a feeling the next question will kind of incorporate some of the thoughts that were coming up around this question.
There's sort of a funny one, and there's a more spiritual one, and then there's a more intellectual one. What would you like?
I'm still stuck on how awesome your answer was. Well, and maybe this will help figure out the next question. But so, what we're talking about here fundamentally is the power of being able to shift your focus, and that kind of brings into mind like a jujitsu principle that we operate with in a very practical way in the dojo all the time. It's the idea that what you resist grows stronger. Right? So
It's cooler when it rhymes. What we resist persists.
Oh yeah, there we go. I forgot that one. Yeah, which I think is cool too. But I think the aspect of it not only persisting but actually getting stronger is an important aspect, especially in like a physicalized practice like jujitsu, because it's very easy to measure it, right? So if you are caught in a hold of some kind, and then you start fighting the hold, generally speaking, the person that's putting the hold on you knows that the hold is working by the amount of energy you're making, you're focusing on it to like get out of it. So they tend to strengthen that position because they know it's being effective. So this kind of goes along with that idea of discernment, and discernment gives us the chance to see the duality of experience. So what I mean by that is that every time something happens, okay, and we feel like that thing reactionarily is inherently negative, okay, we want to resist it, we want to fight it, we want to keep it at bay, or we want to avoid it. Okay, avoiding, fighting, denying all take focus, right? So to avoid something, you got to stay focused on that thing, which I know sounds counterintuitive, but it's really true if you think about it. To deny something, it's the same. To pretend that something's that feels true isn't true, you got to focus on that thing still. Right? And in a physical sense, in the dojo, we say that all the time. So it's like if somebody gets me in a hold and I can't move my left arm and shoulder, the harder I fight that thing, the more stuck in it I become. Right? So that sort of goes to the next sort of tenet that we operate with, which is to recognize resistance as positive, not negative. Recognize resistance as a point of reference instead of a limitation, because what it does is it helps you employ the power of the other thing that we say in the dojo, which is acceptance is the key to survival. Right? So if I fully accept that someone's got me trapped in shoulder lock and my left arm and my left shoulder can't mobilize the way I want it to. Well, it's in the full acceptance of that thing that I'll be in the best position to utilize the resistance that I feel as valuable information to create space, as opposed to negative information that makes me only feel trapped and like my only option is to escape. Right? If we take the energy of that and metaphorically apply it to this question, like the idea of like, oh, this negative thing keeps coming up and I don't know what to do about it. Well, the first thing to do is to accept it, because if you accept it, you'll know where it is and you'll have more idea of what it is, and maybe even some idea of why it's showing itself, why it's coming up. That ties right into perfectly the dynamic of using our tools in the way that Colleen was just describing, because when we know what we don't want, okay, we can utilize that information to recognize what we do want. That translates to, in a sort of a mental and emotional sense, but in a physical sense in the dojo too, do the next best thing and focus on that. Go to the next best position on the mat and focus on that. Go to the next best thought that you can have. It doesn't even have to be the best thought of all time, but it has to be a little bit better than the thought that you were just startled by and is now trying to pull its, your focus towards it. If you can pause, this is where all that, space between stimulus and response, right? If we can feel a reaction, process it, pause for a second and make a choice, that's a response. If we can do that, that's the evidence that we've effectively shifted our focus. We're not denying something, right? So we're not denying it, avoiding it, or trying to resist it. In other words, we're not giving it any more strength and power than it's already presented itself with, but we are doing something that we're choosing to do, which is to shift our focus to the next best available feeling or think or thought thing that you can reach for in your vicinity. Okay, that's a tool in itself. It's recognizing the power of our own focus and our command of our own focus as a very powerful tool. It kind of translates to, just to sort of wrap it up, oftentimes, if you can't do anything else in a jiu-jitsu situation where you feel totally controlled or stuck in a position with your opponent, accept that and then focus on your breathing. Control your breathing, because that's something that you can make a choice about. Am I going to relax my breathing, slow my breathing, breathe deeply through my nose into my diaphragm, as opposed to panic breathing in and out of my mouth? That shift of focus to the next best thing available is immeasurably powerful in a lot of very practical ways, and in itself is a tool.
I like it. We have 4 minutes
What?
Oh my
left.
God.
And we have a fun question as the last one,
That's
I
not
think,
real.
because I'm just again impressed. We usually get through like 3 questions, and we've
No,
gone.
you guys did amazing today.
No, thank you. That's amazing.
I was gonna say we got through 572 today, but
take that as a high compliment coming from you. That's
very
awesome.
much so.
Love it.
And this one, I quite like this one because I already have an answer for it. If I silence my inner critic, how do I know I won't just become delusional about how great I am?
That's awesome. I love it.
And
I have a real fast answer for that.
what's your fast answer?
People will tell you. They will let you know.
I have a little longer answer, which is I kind of hope you do. Because at some point somebody traumatized you into thinking you weren't great. And when you were a kid, there was at least a space of time where you knew you were awesome. And I love that for people. And it's one of the places where children are delightful, because they'll bring you a rock and with a great deal of seriousness go, this is the best rock that I've ever seen in my whole life. This is just an awesome rock. You can take it home with you because you're awesome too. And they expect that you get that. I want you to think you're great. That's amazing. I don't want you to think you have skill sets you don't have, because I don't want you to think, I bet you I could fly a plane, and then go fly a plane without any lessons.
Attempt to fly a plane.
That would be a very short learning curve. But you can think you're great, because when you think you're great and you genuinely, sincerely mean it, and it's not an ego thing, you just think you're delightful and everybody else is delightful, you tend to assume everybody is, and you kind of share that. So if it's not
Gotcha.
coming from an ego place of less than that has to make somebody else feel less than, I think you're great. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, it's sort of, if we're talking about binaries, arrogance and confidence are very different things.
Mm.
Humility and hubris are very different things. Generally speaking, where someone expresses in a way that feels truly great to them and lands truly great with people, it's accompanied by humility and true confidence.
Mhm.
Right? Arrogance and hubris actually get in the way of greatness and limit its expression. So that's another way to be able to tell uh, whether or not you're truly being in your own unique, special greatness, or you're pretending to be in someone else's.
Yeah. And when you think you're great, you don't need to insist on it to people.
Mhm.
So you just get excited about doing things with people.
And sharing things with people.
Yeah. And you get excited when people want to share with you. So yeah, I think you're great. I think everybody's great. The world will be a better place for it.
Mhm. And fewer people will tell you that you're not.
Fair.
Some still will, but that's their problem. Most will have to be able to refrain from having to tell you, hey, you're not as great as you think you are, because they will tell you if you are off base most of the time
That is true.
in polite and not so polite ways.
And I think this is a first. We are done like 20 seconds early.
What?
I know.
Jazz hands.
Taken over by aliens.
Impressive. Well,
Thank
shameless
you.
self-promotion still has
There we
to
go.
happen.
We
So,
can take a breath before the shameless self-promotion.
Thank you. There's a couple new projects in the works, which we will tell you about later, but nobody's going to believe me. Seriously, our store is almost up with the new with all of the new posters and wall art, which we're super excited about. So
And they're looking
hopefully
really good.
they're looking so good. I'm so
We got some
happy.
samples back this last week and a half, and they're really looking great. Better than I actually even imagined that they would.
Yeah, so when we have the pithy sayings that I occasionally come up with and Dana often comes up with, now they will be on wall art so that you can look at something and go, oh yeah, I needed to be reminded of that today. And I am awesome and I'm allowed to remember that. So that is coming soon. And until then, there are new audios coming soon. And until then, you can go and check out our nap audios on the digitaldojo.net. There are 3 free nights for 3 sets of audios you can listen to. And there's a 21 night one that if you like the first 3 nights, you can listen to all of it. And that one is a paid one. But if you are a News for the Soul listener, you get your News for the Soul discount on everything up there. And if Dana's stuff is sounding interesting with the dojo, there is also a free white belt mind up there. So you can take the first level, you can take the white belt training for the black belt mind, which is kind of fun.
All available on the digitaldojo.net, all available on our platform, also through the wonderful ubiquity of the socials, Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, YouTube, and the other ones.
And the other ones.
If I'm forgetting any.
And if
we're
nap
all of them
interests you, there's how to do nap. So there's a lot of little videos on how to do nap, and we do nap in a lot of the things that we do, a lot of the classes that we have up there. And you can also take a class and learn how to do it on your own, which is very fun. And I sincerely hope it is taught in school one day because self-help is a wonderful thing.
And all with immediate and on the spot access 24 hours, 7 days a week at the digitaldojo.net. We'd love to have you come and participate in our community and share our community with the News for the Soul listeners with our 50% discount on anything that is priced, large or small, and the community that we've built otherwise just in the years we've spent sharing these ideas.
And
you're all welcome to be a part of that and expand it, and we'd love to have you.
yeah, and
Continue the
definitely sign up for the newsletter because we don't do that crummy thing where we sell your information because that's
and never will.
dumb. But you do hear about stuff first. You will get discounts on there, or you will have early access to things. And we send out newsletters sometimes, oftentimes, only sometimes. And we make sure that there's information in there for you. So It's just little bite-sized information and chunks of stories and things like that. So if you haven't signed up for that, please do, because it's amazing watching that list grow and feeling like we can reach out to people and have a two-way conversation.
Absolutely. Love it, love it.
Love it, love it. Dun dun, jazz hands.
And with that, we're at the top of the hour. Thanks, guys, for being here. Looking forward to next week. Woo!
Yes,
Always.
indeed.
Thank you for having us, and thank you for this wonderful space.
Colleen and Dana are all linked up at newsforthesoul.com, and we're done for the day.